Hello, all you spry tubers, twitchers, and pod people out there. Welcome to the Could You Do It Better podcast, where director, artist, and the behind-the-scenes awesomeness known as Sesh, and the writing and directing sensation known as Maria discuss popular television shows and movies and answer the always controversial question of, could you do it better? Today, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 7 of Lauren Schmidt Hissrich's The Witcher television series, based upon Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher novel series. And as for me, I'm Jonathan the Intern, and unlike our two experts, have no industry experience whatsoever. In other words, I'm much like Tissaia's new students. I'm completely untalented with no magical abilities whatsoever. My bosses were paid massive amounts of money to take me away to lock me up. And the only way I'm tolerable to people in the industry is by giving me random chemicals, hoping I turn into an eel so they can toss me away while I power their studio. Truer words have never been spoken. And hello to Sesh and Maria. Woo!
I was going to say relatable.
All right. Well, welcome back. Dealing with episode 7 today. Should be a fun one, huh?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Yep. Well, in that case, let's move on. Spoiler warning. In this episode, we will be doing a detailed recap of Season 1, Episode 7 of The Witcher. That will indeed contain spoilers throughout. So, if you haven't watched this episode and don't want to hear spoilers before you do, please feel free to put us on mute as you watch the episode, then rewatch our show afterwards, because that's how you double those view counts. And now, on to the recap, as mandated by our legal department. We begin this episode in a small town with Ciri wearing her last Rose of Sintra cosplay cloak while on the lam trying to make her way to Skellig. We see her steal some corn and speak curtly to a villager, so we know she's a hardened criminal now. Meanwhile, in the past, Geralt sees a large Nilfgaardian army approaching Sintra and runs off to the nearest tunnel to tell an oddly cantankerous Mousesack all about it. Geralt inquires about the welfare of his surprise child to find out at the gender reveal party that it's a girl and that her parents both died. So Geralt has won the award of Deadbeat Dad of the Year for the past 10 years running. What Mousesack failed to mention is that this tunnel meeting was also an ambush set up by Calanthe. As the guard assassins encircle him, Geralt takes Mousesack hostage by knife point, saying that if they want to kill Geralt, we'll have to kill Mousesack as well. Unfortunately, the assassins watched the previous episodes and knew Mousesack would die later that evening anyways, so they didn't value him as much as Geralt thought they would. And Mousesack was forced to magically portal them away to the Queen. Calanthe and Geralt seem to have an extremely fraught relationship at this point, considering she sent 8 assassins after him and told him to leave or be paid off before he invokes Law of Surprise. Well, that, or this being Calanthe, it might have been a friendly how do you do, as nothing spells fun like murder and mayhem in the morning. Geralt, though, says he can't be bought, namely because Law of Surprise is basically a coupon for one free child and has no actual retail value. Calanthe says Ciri is her only heir, and she cannot lose her. Geralt counters that if she has any concern Sintra might be unsafe from the Nilfgaardian attack, he'll protect her until the battle is over and then return her unharmed. Calanthe's like, effing manufacturer coupons with no expiration dates. Fine, Law of Surprise it is. Back to the future, where Ciri walks past a puppet Penny Street Theater, retelling of her grandmother and grandfather's death, to try stealing some new leather gloves. However, her standing there for 5 minutes trying them on first gets you caught every time. So she instead traded her almost certainly priceless royal ring from her mother for it. Because who needs a horse, a year's supply of food, an entirely new wardrobe, and probably some professional bodyguards when you can just get a pair of gloves instead? A villager catches this going down and offers Ciri free room and board on her floor to come with her, as traveling alone is no place for a young girl. Ciri's like, as generous as living on your floor sounds, I'm going to have to decline and steal your horse instead to travel to Skellig because I'm a hardcore gangsta now. Hee-yah, horsey. And right back to the past, where Calanthe tries passing off another child as Ciri to give to Geralt. Geralt has a feeling something is off, though, and follows a suspiciously opening door, strange whispers, and his Witcher medallion to a secret exit to the castle where he sees the imposter say goodbye to the real Ciri. Geralt confronts Calanthe, saying she lied to him when all he's doing is trying to keep Ciri safe. Calanthe is like, please, what do you even know of parenting or love when your mother gave you up for experimentation? Ooh.
Cold.
And Geralt's like, it takes one to know one. It's about this time where Iced walks in and Calanthe says, husband, deal with this. As Iced escorts him out, Geralt asks him, what the hell's going on here? You don't hold surprise parties anymore? Iced is like, I have a granddaughter now, man. The mere mention of surprise, and she starts jumping on me like I'm a trampoline asking for cake. I broke 3 ribs in my collarbone last time, man. I can't do surprises anymore. Please, just go and tell me you'll stop talking about the surprise thing. Geralt's like, I can't do that. So Ice, like any parent traumatized by their child abusing them on a daily basis, Geralt between the castle gates for imprisoning because hell nah. We cut to a quarry.
Relatable.
Yeah. We cut to a quarry in Nivir under Nilfgaard control where Yennefer, fresh off her magical Witcher romance, meets up with her ex Istrid at his Manolith dig site. My, what a coincidence! Despite Yennefer still showing no interest in archaeology whatsoever, mocking his trade and her wearing her finest evening dress that clearly is not appropriate attire for excavation, asking about his future plans. Yep, they always run back to the ex who treated them right. Been there. She invites him for a drink to catch up and asks him to run away with her as she misses and still loves him. He's like, oh, really now? I thought you didn't want to settle down. And Yennefer says, yeah, I've been with a lot of dudes, like a lot. But they never treated me kindly like you did. And she leans in for a kiss. Blah. Istrid's like, you know what? You ghosted me for years, treated me like garbage, and lusted after power and looks so you could party it up while I simply loved you for you. It took me years hoping you'd come back to move on, but you know what? I have more self-worth than that now. And with that, he leaves to the tears of everyone who has ever dealt with an ex after the recent breakup. But don't you hang your head yet, Yennefer, because as soon as Istrid leaves, another dude sits down at her table. So, I heard you're single? Ugh. Anyways, the guy is a mage, Vilgefortz, who tells her they need to escape to Aretuza before the Nilfgaardians start asking questions and conscript them to join their cause. Plus, Tissaia and him need her. Yennefer responds, Mummy? Cut to Aretuza. Yennefer is like, all right, where's Tissaia? But Vilgefortz responds that she actually didn't know Yennefer was coming. He just said her name to convince Yennefer to come. Yennefer's like, screw this garbage. I'll just follow the trail of crying girls. And so she does. Albeit, it's her own traumatic memories until she wanders upon 3 impressionable laughing students. So Yennefer does what any jaded nihilistic person who failed at life and becomes a teacher as a backup plan does in this situation, deciding to be the cool teacher, cussing out the establishment and getting the students high on illegal substances. It's there that she learns school has changed since she was a kid, that they used to educate the gifted free of charge, but now they just let anyone in so long as they have money. The girls think they're going to get expelled for getting high, but Yennefer shows them that technically they get eel spells. Yeah, and get their uterus removed. It's at this point we hear enough. Uh-oh, Yen, mother has come home. Tissaia tells her, you've ruined one life. Let's leave it at that, and calls her a failure. However, their talk is cut short as there's an emergency meeting of mages. Nilfgaard is attacking Sintra, and battle lines are drawn. Stregobor, Arturius, and Fringella are in favor of Nilfgaard destroying Sintra, whereas Tissaia, Vilgefortz, and Triss are in favor of saving Sintra. Stregobor argue that Sintra has rebuked all magical assistants and are backwater racists, whereas Nilfgaard promotes free trade and equality. Tissaia and Triss respond with, yeah, equality, blood magic, necromancy, and fire magic. And absent Mousesack is like, I feel like I had somewhere important to be right now. Well. Arturius calls for a vote, and Vilgefortz, like anyone knowing they're going to lose, said, vote starts, claiming, Arturius calls for a vote, and Vilgefortz, like anyone knowing they're going to lose, says that the vote starts claiming gerrymandering of Nilfgaard through nepotism by placing Arturius' daughter as mage there. Tough line. Stregobor says, actually, Yennefer did that. Had she gone to Nilfgaard like she was supposed to, they'd still be in the Stone Ages. Yennefer speaks up to say that Stregobor is right, and all she did in Aedirn was help murderers and rapists. Stregobor says, oh, shut the hell up, Yennefer. You don't get a vote at this council. Yennefer responds saying if it was up to her, she'd burn it all down. Stregobor is like, her vote counts? It counts. You heard it. You heard it. It passes. Vote is called, and to no one's surprise, Burn Sintra Down was passed with 90% of the vote. After leaving the council, a despondent Tissaia tells Yennefer that she was right. Aretusa is all she has, but chaotic girls need order, and if Nilfgaard wins, that's gone. Yennefer says, who cares? Did you not hear the political slogan I created? Tissaia says she's going to war with Nilfgaard and asks Yennefer to join her, if not because she believes in it, then because it's her, Tissaia, saying please. Yennefer, shocked, is like, yes, mummy, I do anything to get your love. We now jump to the siege of Sintra that we saw in the pilot. Geralt breaks out of prison, and this time we see the fall of Sintra from his perspective, intercut with Calanthe telling Ciri to find Geralt in hope to fulfill destiny and for her to live on. As Mousesack and Laszlo get Ciri out of the city, Geralt sees Calanthe fly out the window and searches the castle for Ciri, only to find a Nilfgaardian zealot talking about how they killed everyone so he can be born anew. And after talking religion, Geralt had enough of that and slit his throat. Cut to future Ciri, camping in the middle of swampland, having buyer's remorse over trading her priceless ring for gloves instead of food. She hears something, and lo and behold, it's the kid she was playing knucklebones with during the pilot. They go to steal her goods and horse, and when she says, what are you doing? We were friends. They tell her they were only friends because of the crown on her head, and proceed to physically assault her in preparation of selling her to Nilfgaard. Episode ends with Ciri going full Diablo 4 trailer as she channels Lilith, daughter of hatred, from the other side of the placental portal, pushing her captors away and spouting the prophecy with a scream, by they come. This episode is brought to you by X's and Aw Hell Knows. You knew this day would come. Smiling, laughing, you finally moved on, gotten your life back together, and come into your own after they shattered your heart into a million pieces. And then the text message that makes each of your brain cells shriek like 1,000 strigas. Hey, what you up to right now? We should meet up. I've missed talking to you. Pretending like those past months of sobbing uncontrollably into your pillow, pounding Twinkies, and hoping death would come while they were living it up, dating someone else, didn't exist for you. Screw that. Here at X's and Aw Hell Knows, we make it our mission to ensure every customer never has to deal with these bloodsuckers again. Not only do we block their number and social media from your phone, but we also block them from your existence. How, you ask? Well, each of our clients has a licensed professional extraction specialist and intercepts your ex's call as soon as they dial you and interacts with them based on your pre-approved wishes. Whether it be through social engineering, showing you winning the breakup, through diabolical self-esteem demolishing one-liners, or even by setting up a meeting, transferring them to a black site and erasing their identity, X's and Aw Hell Knows has you covered. That's X's and Aw Hell Knows, because if an X disappears in the woods, does your phone make a sound? Aw Hell Knows. Back to you, Sesh and Maria.
That is the most genius
That's
service I have ever heard in my entire life.
that's so much better than just a block button.
Now trending. Now
Wow.
trending.
Wow.
Gonna be the top in the app store for a long time.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Check the Goobs, check iOS, check your Apple Store, everything.
I'm signing up. Anyway, our first question of the night is, this episode seems to play with the concept of morality and how concrete or fluid it can be. Who do you view as the most moral character so far, and why? Sesh, you want to get us started?
For me, it's Geralt. He has obviously spent so much time learning about the world and building his own moral code over the years. That was clear in the first episode. He's not perfect, and sometimes action does need to be taken rather than just to abstain. But I really get the sense that no matter how jaded the world is, it hasn't actually jaded him yet. Like, for example, the best insult, Yennefer had for attacking his actions was yelling at him for not claiming his child's surprise. That child who has loving relatives and who is literally living as a princess. So, of course, he shouldn't take her away from that. Another example also from last episode is like the creature that pops out and scares Jaskier. True, Geralt may have been able to save it before the not-so-heroic knight decapitates it, but saying that it was simply hungry and would have gone away if they offered it some food shows that he has in the past chosen paths of less violence, even with demonic-looking creatures. Him having a strong moral code that is challenged by the messy complications of the situation he gets in is one of my favorite aspects of the show.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, but for me, I would say morality definitely is subjective in this universe. So as far as most moral, I would equate that with most consistent with holding their values. So I would have said Geralt, but his whole wishing for Yennefer to be his sleepy time slave kind of threw that out the window.
The wording of the wish matters. I will always defend him.
Be my sleepy time slave. I would. Done.
I wouldn't defend that.
I'm actually going with Yennefer. She actually seems to be the most moral in that she knows what she believes to be right, whether or not it is. What she believes to be BS and lies, and she really holds to staying away from supporting anything she doesn't believe in, even if that makes her not popular. She's had a lot of growing up to do, but she definitely seems to be at this point, whatever point that is in this episode, the most morally aware person in this universe to me. I think Ciri might eventually be moral, but right now her survival mode and confusion about her grandmother's genocidal past has her in a bit of a tizzy. So.
Interesting answers. So I one thing I will say before telling who my pick is I really enjoyed the shifting morality in the series, and especially within this episode. Thus far, the series has led us to believe that the cosmic aligning of Geralt and Ciri and the saving or reestablishment of Sintra is meant to save the world. But when you look at who sides with Sintra, you have Tissaia, a harsh teacher best known for buying children like Yennefer and turning them into glorified babysitters, escorts, in an effort to decrease chaos. Wait, or is it to increase her institution's funding and world control? Hard to tell. And then there's Calanthe, who's a likable character, but is also a xenophobic racist, whose favorite hobby is killing elves. Oh yes, and her granddaughter might be the vessel for Lilith, daughter of hatred, and bringer of the end of times. Meanwhile, on Team Nilfgaard, you have Stregobor, who is introduced as a shady character who had a predilection for killing girls born during a blood moon. You have Fringilla, who has turned into a religious acolyte for what seems to be a demon cult, while practicing necromancy and blood and fire magic. Oh, but they do respect the commoner more and share resources equally. So that's nice, you know. It's just makes for really interesting watching when you have no idea what is good or bad and everything is morally gray. I think that is tremendous when series do that because you have so much room to play with. I really don't know why more series aren't written with that in mind. You know, usually it's good, bad. There's no gray, you know. This is full of gray. Love it. So as for who the most moral character in the show is, yeah, I disagree with your choices of Geralt and Yennefer. Yeah, straight up disagree. I think Yennefer has shown herself to be strongly immoral and has put her own desires and wish for power over pretty much anything. And Geralt, he has his own set of rules, but I think he understands that morality all depends on who is in charge or paying the coin. And as such, he primarily follows the money and tries to stay out of human affairs, primarily because it seems he doesn't want to be forced to make any moral decisions. So, if there was one character in the show that I would say aligns best with good, lawful, moral character, I would pick Dara. He saved Ciri a few times, helped her even after finding out her grandmother killed his whole family, and when ordered to kill someone by her, said no, choosing eventually to leave her rather than be pulled further into what he deems as immoral actions. So yeah, I am going with Dara as the most moral person so far in the show.
Wow, good call. Respect.
Yeah, pretty good.
All right, our next question of the evening is, how did the pacing and weaving of the scenes in this episode compare to the last? Is this episode better than the last, or do they both serve their purpose? I'll start it off. I thought the pacing and weaving were brilliant. In studying writing, I have learned there are different approaches to storytelling, and The Witcher's approach seems to be nonlinear with some parallel structure where there are multiple protagonists with different time frames, locations, and they mirror and reflect each other thematically while also intersecting. That is so hard to do. It's just not easy storytelling, but when it's done right like this, it's incredible. It's like watching a beautiful jewel or something. I think this episode was much more satisfying than the previous because of its complex nature. The previous episode is a different animal. It might boil down to a matter of taste, but as far as tone for the whole series, this seems to match the tone that was set in the first few episodes really nicely.
Wow. Nicely said.
Yeah, I do agree with that, even though I liked the last episode. It wasn't for the pacing. This episode was it was so much about the characters visiting their pasts emotionally and physically. Everyone had a little something of back home or to their own pivotal moments. I really got the sense that everyone was a little lost and grasping on what they should do next. I wanted a little more, mostly from Ciri's part, once again, and a little bit more from Geralt, but I like where we are with him and where we are with all of them. I could have used slightly shorter references for their past with the mini flashbacks. The pacing isn't slow, but I feel I'm just so eager for things to move forward, like especially once we understood where they were and when they were in the timeline. I wanted it to hurry up and get a move on for the plot, but it was out of love and eagerness, not boredom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true. They did do one of those breaking of the cardinal rules, which is like re-showing lengthy amounts of time that were already shown in one of the previous episodes in the series, but I actually think that it really worked in this one. And because it wasn't just a hey, remember this, it was more of a now we're putting everything together that you've already seen. So I think they did a really great job in this one, just blending the different characters and time periods. And whereas the last episode felt tough to keep up with the cuts and figure out initially when the episode had taken place in the timeline, and then what had transpired during that time jump, all of the scenes in this one felt on point and purposeful. There was no question or confusion at all about where and when we were. And if there is one thing you must do as a creator or writer when dealing with time, It's that you need the audience to either be able to almost immediately know what time point you're in, say like how Back to the Future does it, or you need to use the fluidity of time itself to serve as a puzzle where the audience is trying to figure out the mystery of what exactly is going on in the timeline and when are they, like the incredible movie Primer does. By the way, this is just a plug for Primer, which I had no role in. But if you have never seen that movie, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. It is a movie you will watch over and over again as you figure out new things about what is going on each time you do. It was made on a shoestring budget. It was fantastic. And in my opinion, it's a masterpiece at presenting the chaos of time travel and the problems that arise because of it. But back to this episode. I felt the writers and showrunners nailed it. And this was truly a bring the past 6 episodes you've seen together and wrap a bow on it in a sort of, it all led up to this sort of way, and was a perfect setup for the season 1 finale. So while episode 6 felt rudderless throughout much of that episode, this episode 7, it felt like you were navigated by an expert whitewater kayaker. I mean, it was phenomenal. Just a great job overall.
Yeah, I'm gonna be copying the things you said later. You'll see.
Oh, copying the intern. That is
well, really, I know I said them first, so you're copying me, but you got it out first.
That's great.
But yeah, definitely agree on a lot of that.
So our next question is, who, in your opinion, is the most well-written character for you in this series?
So
just copy and paste it.
See, for me, it's also Geralt. Like for everything I talked about with his moral code, I love that he's not too much of a Boy Scout either. I think we understand that sometimes he needs to do things that make the world unfair or unjust just because it's still the best outcome that he could do. I really love that the Witchers are very much considered an other in this world. So we also get elements of, not judging based on, someone being different. And that's something compounding with the notion that Witchers don't have emotions. Like we so clearly see that he does, and they're not even muted. His emotions are just right there, right under the surface. They're reserved and like blocked off, but they're still right there. Like that idea is very dehumanizing, and his moral code is so centered around having humanity. He's not too on his high horse about his, do good philosophies either. Like he's not too cynical though. He's not too much of a goody where he's so naive, or too much of a baddie where he's cruel. I never feel like he makes the wrong choice. I always just find myself feeling bad for the choices he has to make. Like for me, he's just a really well-written, balanced character with those dynamics.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a lot of the characters are written really well.
Yeah.
In this episode, what really struck me, and which makes me choose Yennefer again, is I guess I'm Team Yennefer. I don't know.
I guess so.
It's because I see how she's grown via her actions and her wit over the season, and that seems to be a rare thing in a lot of shows. The growth in main characters never seems as full or satisfying. Yennefer's impressive as it starts off where her dialogue is kind of stunted and sharp. Then it blooms into this worldly snarkiness that comes from a well-honed seasoning of time and intellectual maturity. You can really feel like that took time. That took time and a lot of shady stuff to get her to where she is. But you always knew she was smart. Now you see that through her dialogue, and I just love how that's grown.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of you. I mean, the fact is that so many characters have been written absolutely fantastically in this series, and yeah, I mean, it's true. I think it is probably Geralt or Yennefer, as they're both fairly complex characters. when it comes to the duality in what they portray versus their underlying, emotions and desires. But to add something to the table or bring something to the table, who knows? I'm going to actually throw Calanthe out there. As she's really the type of character that in most shows is either written so terribly wrong as either a walking cliche cartoon villain, or they mute that character so much because they want to make sure like they don't want to possibly offend anybody who's watching the show. And it is just so difficult to write a likable racist bigot or sexist with appropriate balance and superb emotive acting. When I think back to shows that have done it, I'm thinking Archie Bunker from All in the Family, is portrayed by Carol O'Connor. That jumps to mind immediately. And then if you want to go a little bit later, Al Bundy from Married with Children is portrayed by Ed O'Neill, And I think Jodie May's portrayal of Calanthe does fall in that category as well. To make a character that should be inherently unlikable into someone real who you can't help but like, even though you don't agree with their viewpoint, is just so difficult and must be done with such care. And not to get on my soapbox, but I think that type of character is something the world truly needs right now, as it's easy to scream at someone who has a viewpoint that's different than your own and view them as pure evil. It's much harder to sit down and actually find out they're a real person with real thoughts and reasons as to why they think the way that they do. And you don't have to agree with it. In fact, you shouldn't in this case. But you do have to accept that it does exist, because only then can you work together to possibly build a middle ground that benefits most people, instead of the constant attempts to strong arm one's own beliefs over the other in just an unending vicious cycle. So I love what they did with Calanthe in this show. They took a big risk there, and I think it's paying off. They also tremendous job casting it, by the way.
Incredible. I agree with you. Just the fact that she could straight try to kill in front of everyone her daughter's one true love, and still everybody's like chill about it afterwards. Impressive.
That's great. I feel like they had a horrible character, originally, and then they're just like, nah, let's make her likable.
It's actually sort of like what in House of the Dragons, what's his name? Jack Gleason, right? Is that his name? Tried doing with Aegon on the throne, hence the jokes, but it doesn't. But it also has to do with the writing.
Yeah.
Like you really need them to write it better, and then they do have that ability to do that if they're a good and talented actor. And Jodie May has done just a tremendous job with it. Like I don't know how much of it is pure writing. I don't know how much is her own work on there. But no matter what,
marriage.
it is, yeah. And she emotes so well on screen.
It's great. So good.
Our next question of the night is, do you think your behavior can change destiny, or is it already determined?
Well, that is the age-old question of free will versus fate. Spent many a college day pondering that one. So, those on the side of free will typically argue that if the future is already written, then there cannot possibly be free will, as you are simply doing what the script says you will do. Now, you can pretend, of course, if you haven't learned of the future yet, but at the end of the day, you will do what is written. However, knowing what the future is would allow you to change it, as you simply have to do anything different to change it and prove it is free will. And there are infinite ways to do that. Hence, free will must exist. On the other side, you have the people who side with fate, and they'll talk of either, a God knowing all or major moments in time that you will be unable to change no matter what you do. The paths may be different, but if you're meant to die, for example, on a certain day, you'll die on that day. There's no escaping fate. For me, I've always been a why can't it be both? While it seems counterintuitive and it must be one or the other, I really think this is all simply a matter of perspective. Let's imagine a clock, and I asked you which direction the second hand moves. Well, if it's a working clock, you'd say that's easy. It moves clockwise. However, what if you weren't standing in front of the clock, but instead behind it, or where the clock face is? From that direction, the second hand would appear to actually be moving counterclockwise, or anti-clockwise for our overseas contingent out there. Wink, wink. Yep. Hey, guys. Same thing goes for, say, being in a car on a giant treadmill. Without sound or visual cues like the dashboard being on, it would be difficult to know whether it's the car that's on and moving you forward, or whether it's the treadmill. In this case, we are three-dimensional beings whose lives are affected by time, but can't see the full timeline of our life that would be able to be understood and fully visualized in a higher dimension. For example, when we watch a bunch of 2D objects moving in quick succession, we can see depth in 3D shapes. Similarly, when we look at two-dimensional images rapidly, we basically are watching a movie with the added depth and knowledge that that brings. So who is to say that there can't be a higher dimension entity out there, whether it be a god or anything else, that would know full well what every single person's future would hold? From their perspective, our life and futures are 100% fated. But from our perspective, where we don't have that knowledge of our future, it can be thought of entirely as free will. So both.
How about? I'm kidding. No, very, very thoughtful. I like that.
Now get back to engineering school.
You're going to need to watch this other show called Dark. You're going to love it.
That will be on my list.
Put it way up there.
Cool. If I were told a law bound me to a person and it was written by destiny, it would certainly be hard to get that out of my head. But I definitely think I have the choice to go in that direction or ignore it. Like Siri has been told a few times, she could just let the idea of Geralt go and live her own life. It is hard to say whether things will turn out better or worse. I think if Queen Calanthe gave in and let Ciri go with the Witcher sooner, her fate would have probably been the same, but she would have felt better about Ciri's future. It seems all the Queen did was delay an inevitable union, which did change destiny, because now Ciri has time to grow into her own person before meeting the Witcher. She may not even feel like she needs him by the time they meet, since she is starting to tap into her powers. Perhaps our destiny is not about our external circumstances, but how well and thoroughly we choose to discover ourselves.
Oh, we were talking about the show and to that question.
It made clear. That's my bad. That's my bad.
Oh, my.
Don't worry, because I'm going to blend the two.
That's my fault.
Uh-oh. We're doing a show.
Yeah.
Here, this is perfect because my answer blends the two.
Oh, nice.
So the show does a wonderful job of making Destiny feel like a current that has pull, but where the characters can still swim in different directions, even if it may not do much to get them away from the fate that they have. I thought it was so interesting to have Geralt and Ciri be so close and to finally see how their stories and timelines are spiraling around each other closer and closer. It's very interesting that Geralt is just now at the start of Ciri's story. I love that. I felt it made sense too. Like the reasoning and the why he is there it's a kind gesture. It's a survival strategy and a favor to the queen in a way. It wasn't contrived. It wasn't just fate. He was just randomly there. It was, I'm on your side. I'm giving you a warning to help you. If it was all destiny, he would have just been the one to rescue her from the scourge that happens at the castle. But the destiny for them, if such a thing exists, is still out of reach. I enjoy that about the show very much, since I, in particular, like the metaphor about water currents being a lot like fate and destiny, where there is a pull to it. It's not just like a stuck point. Like some have to swim away to avoid like bad habits and that pull, which could suck you in. which could be avoidable potentially. Others should swim towards the current until they find that bit of the current that they want and they don't have to swim so hard anymore. So for me, it's a little bit of both, and the show kind of captures what I believe outside of the show.
I love that. That's very nice.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Talked about the show as well.
Let's see if
I clearly need less of those chemicals to turn me into an eel. It's affecting my job.
Our next question.
I have answered a few questions like that. It's okay. It happens to us all.
Mousak seems to be showing different shady colors in this episode. Do you have any theories on where his true allegiance lies? I'll start. I think it's odd that Aretusa doesn't know he is a mage that is with the queen. They seem to think the queen has rejected all mages. So who is this guy? His allegiance seems to shift a bit each episode, or he seems to be holding back his true personality. Also, if he could transport the Witcher with him to Queen Calanthe, why couldn't he transport the Queen and Ciri out of danger? Very strange. I want to know where he's originally from. No one ever says.
Indeed. Will the real Mousak please stand up?
Wow.
So in Aretusa, both the academy where Tissaia is at and the Brotherhood where Stregobor is at both seem to have no knowledge of Sintra having any magical assistance or aid whatsoever, saying that all offered assistance was rebuked. That leads to the question of, how is that even remotely possible? Surely in all the years Mousak has been in Sintra, there would have been some word that Calanthe had a mage in her employ. And if the Academy or Brotherhood actually ever did set foot in Sintra, they would know this as well. I mean, hell, Geralt and Mousak recognized each other immediately, within a minute of Geralt setting foot in the castle. Plus, the way Tissaia made it seem, all entities who learned or practiced magic would get checked in on from time to time, such that the council can keep tabs on them. That's what she's been doing with Yennefer. So if neither side truly knows anything about Mousak or that he's there, who or what actually is Mousak? The fact that he portals like Istrid or Yennefer makes me wonder if Mousak is secretly an elf and knows an older form of magic. The other part of it, though, is that based on the songs we've heard, it seems that there's a major fight going on over the timeline where the future is coming to change the past. And based off of that, it would make sense to me if Mousak is actually from the future who was sent back, or that he sent himself back to attempt to alter the timeline.
Oh boy.
The question, though, is whether it's for good or for evil. Isn't it always? So yes. So yes, I have Mousak as a secret Targaryen. I mean, secret elf time traveler.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Eel chemicals.
Let's see. So, I mean, for me, just with everything being talked about at Aretusa, I find it's just that he's even more loyal to the Sintra family than we previously thought. Like, I guess to his own demise from the looks of the politics going on here. Like, I'm kind of confused on his exact role, like what his, paycheck would pay out to and what it would be for. Like, I thought he was more of a third party previously with his interactions with Geralt, treating him more like a fellow contractor, just like himself. But with this episode, he was way more loyal to the queen and Ciri and closed off to the rest of the world. And I guess entirely to his people than I thought. I mean, maybe there's a lesson in there about becoming too attached that the more cynical mages and witches will take from it. I don't know. His tune about the fate of a child surprise seems to have changed drastically over the years too, now that he has grown to love the family. So I don't know what he's up to.
Well, he had to be trained, though, in magic to have those abilities.
Yeah.
He was trained in a different time and space.
He's a Targaryen.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, if he was trained with the Brotherhood, then like they'd know
him. He'd
they'd
be
know him.
tagged. Yeah.
Like it either somebody in that meeting was lying,
Right. Which they do.
yeah, or I don't know, Mousak is a piece that isn't on the board, which is highly intriguing.
Indeed.
And like how they wouldn't know after 10 years.
Yeah.
Like it's been 10 years, nobody knows that they have a mage working for them.
Maybe he's got a
More.
cloak. Maybe he's like cloaked himself from
What if he's the Doppler? The Doppler elf from the future. Anyway.
What?
Okay. So moving forward, I might need to check myself into a hospital. Question.
Our next question. If the main characters were high school archetypes, which ones would they be? Sesh,
Yeah, let me take this real quick. Just because I might have to turn off my camera for a moment to put something in the other room. So Geralt here is obviously the bad boy who plays guitar and has deep thoughts. Yennefer is the ugly duckling turned cheerleader, ditching all her old friends and hating on anyone not as hot as she is anymore. Really, she's passing it on with how she was treated in the worst ways possible. Only recently has she started to grow out of being this snobby, stuck-up hot girl. Ciri is still so young. She's a freshman. She's making big moves and bold moves to deem herself with some kind of label. I'm guessing to be a fighter, if you ask me. And yes, Jaskier Glee, yes.
Oh my gosh, yes. Glee Club as well.
1 second, I will pop right back. But I'll be right back.
Yep.
Go on without me.
Yeah, for me, I mean, Geralt is the loner bad boy that every girl wants. Yennefer, I see as the jaded class clown who wants to watch the world burn. I don't really see her as the cheerleader. Ciri is the kid that gets straight A's without trying. Nobody really appreciates that. And Stregobor is the creepy coach that gets fired for inappropriate behavior.
That's not too different from me there. So overall, I've got Geralt as a brooding guy who spends most of his school day in woodshop. And he's also an all-conference athlete. I'm thinking maybe a linebacker who doesn't talk much, but he just likes to hit things, just go about his business, hit things, and then leave, Yennefer, she I have as emo, but in the angry, hate all things anarchist way, not the burnt out stoner way. Jaskier is the talented theater kid who plays his own music. He's going places. He's going to Broadway.
Nice.
I have Ciri as the privileged, uptight girl whose mom leads the PTA and goes full Karen whenever any teacher dares give her daughter less than an A on anything. Dara I have is a nice guy. He's on the math team. He tries keeping his head down, and I've got Calanthe. Yeah, Calanthe, she is the brash all-state jock who led both her lacrosse and field hockey teams to multiple state titles. She's got a D1 scholarship lined up, and she is just a cruel, cruel bully. But everybody loves her, super popular, and basically they carry her around everywhere. Like she is the person in the school. Tissaia, she is the mean girl who is popular simply because people are scared of her. And finally, Stregobor, he's not allowed within 150 feet of a school zone for many reasons that we cannot discuss here. So same thoughts when it comes to Stregobor, yeah.
Oh man, you went down the whole list and it's spot on.
All right, so now we're to the point of the show where we have ratings and would you continue watching? My rating is 10 out of 10. My most favorite episode. I love the way they weave the storylines, character arcs, and themes into this episode. bringing us back to events we have seen but from different perspectives, showing how everyone's choices led to certain fallouts. It was done so well. I want to watch it again. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah, no, along the same lines. I did. I thought this was an absolutely fantastic episode. I thought it was very well written. We haven't even talked about it, but there was outstanding choreography in this one. The pacing I thought was perfect. The cuts were seamless, and they brought the entire season together. So overall, I'm going to give this one short of a 10. I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10, or an A. Just a really well done episode that I would point to as, hey, this is a reason why to watch the series.
Yeah.
For me, it's like an 8.5 or a 9. It's excellent. I think I would have gotten a little higher rating for me if there was a couple of things, like the means of which Geralt was able to escape, and like if we got to see a little bit more of Surrey, I'd have been just a little bit more satisfied. But like otherwise, I absolutely love it so much when a story touches on its humble beginnings before we go to the end. And we go and like we get to see that little bit of the start. Like it really exemplifies the changes we've seen in the characters and how far the journey has been and where we were, where we are now. I love it so much. And it just felt so natural and perfect with after last episode and everything we've seen so far, and it's really just such a perfect way to set up the conclusion of this season, and so good.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to take us home?
Yeah. No, I guess watch this episode. All right. So I'll again thank you so much for joining us this evening and watching until the end. We do really appreciate all your support, and hopefully we brought up to some intelligent conversation and laughs tonight. And honestly, it is your support that makes this worth it. If you like this show, please like, share, subscribe, heart, do the likey thing. If you hated this show, please make sure to like it twice, because we do have metrics that tracks that. And it does really show us what we need to do better in the future. So double like if you can. Our next episode will be on Tuesday, September 17th at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So looking forward to seeing you then. And until next time, could you do it better? Toss a coin to your
witcher, Valley of Plenty.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.